Welcome to Understanding the Unhoused. My name is Joshua. Through a series of interviews with individuals who are experiencing homelessness, my intention with this podcast is to increase compassion and empathy for the unhoused. When people see an unhoused individual, they can feel fear, anger, apathy, sometimes all three. My hope is after hearing their stories, hearing what it's like for them on a day-to-day basis, it will make it clearer that these are just people. People who, through a combination of bad luck, bad choices, and, let's be honest, a broken system, have found themselves without a roof over their heads. Okay, enough ado. When Daryl first reached out to me over email, he outlined a very intriguing story, so, of course, I had to get on the phone with him and get the whole thing. Daryl is a single father living in Oklahoma who, after struggling with drugs and alcohol for his entire life, has turned his life around after a brief stint with death. Daryl was recently given the position of the first parental advisor for the Homeless Commission, the Oklahoma Commission on Children and Youth, and has a very hopeful story to tell that I hope you find inspiring. Please enjoy the interview. Daryl, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me today. Talk about your journey to where you are now, the experience you had being unhoused.
All right, first off, Joshua, thank you. Okay, thank you for having me here to put out my version of an unbelievable journey and adventure. I would say that it's been not always great at times, but I will tell you how I overcome being homelessness and how I actually got to being homeless. When we start at an early age and we have trauma that affects all of us, sometimes we don't within our life know how to deal with those traumatic events that go on, and we carry those with us through our adolescence and throughout our 20s and even 30s, and sometimes we travel life without at all being able to get rid of them. When we have trauma that we're afflicted by, some is smaller than others, some are larger than others. I don't want to put it on any level of what is worse or what is better. It's all about what our brain tells us we can and cannot handle for ourselves. My own situation, I was sexually assaulted as a child and mentally assaulted as a child. So I held that inside, and I did that for many, many years. And by the age of 11, I'd started drinking alcohol. There was a family member who drank quite a bit of alcohol, and when they drank, I would lived in Colorado, but I would go down to Louisiana and spend my weekends with a family member that wasn't my father, because my father was at work the whole time. So when he was at work, we were just there, and I'd wake up and I got introduced to vodka at that early of an age. Although Josh, I didn't drink it all the time. At that point, I was just 11, but that's when I was introduced to it. And it's just strange when you look back and think, and you listen to all these different stories of people who started smoking so early and started doing all of these different things so early, and some people might say, how did you do that? How did you get a hold of that? But it happens. We can't sit here and say how it happens. I mean, our lives are just what they are, and maybe within my life, if there were certain people around who didn't have trauma of their own, to care that much, whether that was happening, you can't really say why it is of what it is, but that was my situation. In high school, I had started dating this girl that, I felt like I was really in love with, first love kind of thing. And, and my mother and father split, my mother and stepfather split. And at the time that they split, I was taken from Colorado to Texas with my stepfather, and had to split up from this girl. And it wasn't between her and I. So I ended up shooting myself in the attempt.
Oh my God.
And
Wow.
and by the grace of God, and you'll hear this so much throughout my testimony, is the simple fact that when I least believed in something so powerful, I now believe so much in, and I'll get to that at one point.
Okay.
So, yeah, but in that, I survived. I was able to survive that attempt, and took more trauma, added more trauma to the trauma that was already there.
Mm-hmm.
So then the alcohol started coming more. The alcohol started being put into my system more, and from there I wanted something more than the alcohol, which ended up being drugs. So in high school, it was the drugs and the alcohol. So see how we've gotten from trauma, carrying that baggage into another area, which is drugs, and filling that baggage up, and now you've got a couple of bags to carry with you, on your trip or your journey, whatever it is. And the drugs just got worse and worse, to where I couldn't stay out of jail, couldn't hold down a job, anything of that nature. And but yet I had 2 kids early when I was 18 years old. I had 2 kids, and I ended up holding a job. I was a functioning alcoholic by this time. Swallowed my trauma. Imagine this, carrying that with you for all your life and just sucking it in, pushing it down. Nowhere to come out. So you're just being a functional drug addict and alcoholic for all those years, and then continuing and having your family and a home and everything. I have my own house and everything, and no one could tell when I was drunk morning, noon, and night. By the time I had quit drinking 3 years ago, I was drinking 2 handles of vodka. So that would be a gallon of vodka, a day. And by day I mean 24 hours. It was where if I stopped drinking, I would die. So I would wake up middle of the night, take a shot, drink, fall asleep, wake up, shot, fall asleep. So I did that for many years.
Okay.
And then after my children got to the age of roughly 16 and 16 and 14 was their ages, I split up with their mother, and all I did was drink and drug. Ended up losing everything that I had, lost my home, lost my job and everything, and became homeless. I was homeless for 10 years. I became adept to the nature of being homeless. I knew where to move when it was time to move, to make sure that I wasn't going to be arrested that night, or if it was getting too scary where I was, and knowing your surroundings, and you start putting yourself into survival mode, being one on your own, just surviving for yourself. And it's not about having to take care of anything anymore, take care of anyone anymore. It's all about just taking care of yourself as much as you can, and you find
like just getting through the day, right?
Absolutely. In that 10 years, I had gone through many stints of wanting to become sober, and I would jump through the hoops. I would go to rehab, and I would go to detox, and just hope that it would work, and it would work. While I was there, everything would work out, and then I'd get back out and then not have the resources or the funds or anything to be where I needed to be. So I was stuck, and never had the way to just move on from where I was at. So the only thing I knew was to just turn to that bottle again, or smoke some more of that meth. You know what I'm saying? Because one equaled out the other, and everything was just, it was beautiful. I mean, it really was. At the beginning, it was beautiful because I had no cares. Other than the fact that I would wish that something would just be handed to me. And there's a lot of the fault that lies in a lot of that is because we start to feel like we're entitled almost.
Right.
We're just entitled to have help, and we don't need to do anything for it. There's so many different resources. Why aren't they just handing them all out to
handing
me.
it to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Why isn't everything, Joshua, just given to me? You know,
Yeah.
I'm just as down on my luck as this next guy. Well, when you're in that situation, you don't understand how many of you there are. You
Right.
don't understand that there's so many of you out there, and they just all can't be helped. So I ran into this other drug addict, this lady that I called my girlfriend for 10 more years, and we ended up having a child. She's 5 years old now, but we ended up having a child 5 years ago, and we were homeless at the time. When my child was born, she was taken away because she had methamphetamines in her system.
Whoa.
And so when she was taken away, I did everything that those courts asked me to do. I became financially stable. I got myself a job. I put myself into rehab, and this is all while COVID was going on. So it was very hard because they wanted me to be in to get better, but yet I couldn't leave rehab to go get a job because we were all quarantined. So I broke all the rules. I busted out of rehab, but I didn't drink and I didn't do drugs because there was something more important for me at the time. So I did everything that I needed to do, and we got her back. Mom didn't want to continue on that path, so she kept doing the drugs and kept doing all these things, and every amount of money that I was making was getting spent on her drugs. So we ended up being homeless again because of things that weren't in my control at that point. Well, they were in my control. It's under anybody's control when they could leave. They could say, don't do it. You know, it was just as much my fault as it was anybody else's, but we became homeless again. So by being homeless, we spent a lot of our times bouncing from couch to couch, you know, and hotels, however we could, and then about a year and a half ago, we were at a hotel, and I went to the manager and I said, you know, I have experience in doing maintenance and things of that nature. Can I work for you, you know, to pay off our room? And he said, sure. You know, I'll let you work here. So I worked there for a year. Now this was 3 years ago. This was 3 years ago. So I worked there, but the money that I was making was only enough to pay for the room and just a little bit of money over.
Wow.
It didn't.
So nothing to save, right?
No, nothing at all. After a year of working for him, he told us that he had decided to sell the property to the Oklahoma Housing Authority, and when they bought it out, they'd allow me and my family to stay there, and I'd still work there, and they'd give me a job throughout the housing authority. In which, when it all came down to it, there was no job, there was no housing after that was left, and then we potentially were just on the streets of Oklahoma.
Oh my God! Wow.
While we were on the streets of Oklahoma, we found ourselves living in a condemned home. We just walked in there. I had no running water, no electricity, nothing of that nature. When we end up getting kicked out of that, we find ourselves living under the deadliest bridge in Oklahoma. And
why is it the deadliest bridge?
There's a lot of murders, human trafficking, and drug abuse and everything of that nature that goes on. Wow. And we had been visited. We had been visited by the police 3 times, and by then it was just my daughter and I. We had lost the mom. Once we left the motel, she had gotten in trouble for trafficking drugs through a different state, and was pretty much taken away from us which is the best thing that could have happened for the both of us, because it's been 2 years now, and we've gotten lives on track. We were met by the police three times, and they'd come by and they'd say, "What are you doing to get out of this situation?" Well, you know, I've called all the shelters, no one's accepting us, all of these different things. And on the 5th or 4th time that they showed up, they didn't believe I was the father of this child until figured that
God.
out. And they said, you're not doing anything to help get her off the streets. I said, why don't you make the phone calls then? And they called, and it took them 2 hours before they made somebody get a space into a shelter. When we ended up getting into the shelter, that's when things changed. We got into the city rescue mission, and I diligently worked on everything that they had to offer, all of the community's resources, all that they had to offer. Inside of that mission, they had services come in all week. Well, they had the doctor that came in every Monday that checked the homeless people and gave them their medicine.
Wow.
There was someone who came in from Upward Transitions and helped get their documentations. They helped us get our Social Security, our birth certificates, and everything to be able to get us housed. And
that's awesome.
Within 2 months, we had our housing, and we've now been.
That is a massively fast turnaround.
It was amazing. But it was all due to the diligent work that I did when I got there, and the help that I'd gotten and listened, to what needed to be done. And then when we got into our house, we've been here ever since.
Oh, so wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is so good to hear.
That in itself is a success story. Once we left there and we've gotten our own place, I've gone to become the first parental chair for the Homeless Children and Youth Steering Committee in the state of Oklahoma, for the Oklahoma Commission on Children and Youth. I serve as the secretary on a parental advisory committee for Positive Tomorrows, which is a very, very awesome school for homeless families and children and getting them back on track. And I've had a documentary made about my journey that's nominated for an Emmy in 2026.
What was that about?
Yeah.
Like who approached you on that? What's it called?
The Hearts of Hope mission was where it was premiered there on May 13th, and that was at the Oklahoma Western Museum that they have out here, and it was a big benefit for the city rescue mission. And so in October of last year, my daughter and I were in the room at the city rescue mission. As we were sitting in the room, my heart gave out and I passed away. So God. She tried diligently to wake up Dad. She just thought we were playing or whatever, and then she noticed that I wasn't going to get up and that I was dead. So she ran it up this long hallway, and she got the staff member and said, "My dad's dead." And they came out and they called 911. They came to get me. It was a clinical death of over 28 minutes, so roughly about 30 minutes of clinically deceased. And in that time, I got to also think of how long she was sitting there at 4 years old at the time, trying to get Daddy to wake up and before she ran and got it, and then got the help, and then that's when they counted it as 28 minutes. And she'd already seen her mom go, and now she's seen her dad go. So there's trauma that was afflicted into her life at that point. So the stronger I had to be after that situation. So the story of the documentary is my life, my journey throughout the beginning, and basically everything that I just told you, which and it was very, very good documentary that was put out. But it was my whole journey and how I started my journey, how I went through my journey, and how as a single father I overcame all of those obstacles, all of those barriers, and got to the place that I am today. I was asked last month to be a part of a national webinar for being the advocate for the parents of Oklahoma and what we could do to change what would benefit us as a system. And that really goes to show when we think about homelessness and we think about the people and fear of the stigma that people have over homelessness is very great amongst the homeless communities, and especially for homeless fathers. Most shelters don't offer a place for homeless fathers. Only 1% in the state of Oklahoma is for fathers with children. It's either mothers with children or singles. So it was really hard to find a place for that. But you got to think about when we're trying to help, when we're out there on the field and we go to different areas and we're asking people of homelessness what it is that they need, what we can provide for them. What we want to do is trust throughout these people because they're already in that survival mode like I spoke of. The questions that need to be asked of someone is, where are you and your child staying tonight? Are you safe where you're at? Or what would be beneficial to your situation? And when asking those questions, it offers up an open-ended conversation to where you can both speak to each other in a way that trust has been built. Because no one wants to be on guard right off the bat and want to tell you anything of what they need when they just feel like you look at them as a homeless statistic. And by opening those levels of trust, then we're able to find what resources they need and how we can help them. What's best to help these people.
Yeah. How did you who approached you to be on this committee, to be, you said, the first parental advisor?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
The Oklahoma Commission on Children and Youth. My daughter was enrolled into Positive Tomorrows because we were in poverty and at the shelter. So Positive Tomorrows, a couple of caseworkers that I had and they called the director over there and they said, look, we've got a child there. Her name is Bella. And her father has passed away, and we need to do something now for this child. They knew that there was a child at risk, but they also knew that my situation, being a homeless father, was one of greater feats because the things that were pushed away from me so much, they all came together, and the director reached out to the senior director of the commission and said, I've got this gentleman that for your committee, since you don't have your parental advisor, everything that he's been through and all of the advice that he can give, because I went into everything that they had handed in front of me, and I did exactly what I was asked to do. But I didn't just do exactly what I was asked to do. I walked in, I grabbed that information, and I ran with it. If anyone needed that information, I wanted to give it to them. I didn't want anyone else being in the position that I was in. I wanted to help every one of those children that were in the shelter. Because listen, when you have a child that's in the shelter and that's all that they know at such an early age and even on to teenage years, when you go into this, and you're on the family side, then you've got to, you can leave at a certain time in the morning and you need to come back at nighttime at a certain time. When you go to breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the shelter, all of the children go to eat and break bread with each other every day. They become a family. When they go out to the playground, they're all family. When they go off to the school that I speak about, Positive Tomorrows, they all get shuttled off on the same bus. Everyone, the school is trauma informed, and a lot of that has everything to do with helping children out with going through this journey also, because it's not just about having a stable home, but it's also consistency within the child's schedule, a daily consistency. And within that daily consistency, they need love, they need compassion, they need understanding for what they're going through as well. It's not just our lives of homelessness, it's also theirs. You cannot show fear, Joshua, out on the street next to your child and not have them feel your fear, and not be afraid themselves. So we have to stay strong as parents. We have to stay strong and show them that we can do this and the determination that we have. She gave me a Father's Day gift, and on the back it says, what does your dad do? She put down, my dad saves the homeless children. My daughter sees what I do. She sees that there's something admirable about Dad. There's something that we need to do, and that helps for the future. because she'll want to do something like that. She'll have it in her heart, and it takes her away from the thought process that she has, that we have been struck down and we can't get out of this situation that we're in.
She's seen firsthand that you can, and that's beautiful to see that. I mean, for her to have to experience that at such a young age is so, I can't even imagine the trauma that she experienced, but to be able to see you get out of it and this everything turn around is just amazing.
A lot of it too within our community is that we need to have trauma-informed, community-based programs that can help these children out with the trauma that they've endured, because it can't just happen at home. Not all of this can happen at home. You can give them the love, support, and everything that they need, but if you're dealing with your own trauma as being a homeless father or a mother or a co-parenting homeless family, you're dealing with your own trauma, which within itself is so overwhelming. But yet you have to find time to deal with their trauma as well. And a lot of the times they're pushing it down like you did as a child. They're pushing everything that they have down, and you don't know because they're not telling you. Why? Because they can't tell you. They can't tell you.
For it. Yeah.
You might get little tidbits here and there like, I miss my mommy, Dad. Okay, you know what? I get it. But who is here right now? Who will always be here? I don't know the answers for you. And all the times that I don't have the answers, that's why we need community-based support. That's why we need all of these trauma-informed agencies that can help out and make sure. And even in school, all the teachers, I right now I'm going through this deal of where I want to advocate for the teachers of the state of Oklahoma and everywhere, just that they become trauma, become trauma informed within their care of the children, because a lot of the time these children get taken from the shelter and then they go into school with the issues that they have. And again, this takes me back to where I say that, they're all a family within the shelter and they're all together. Well, guess what? They all get pushed out of the shelter to go to their housing that they get. But what happens when they go to their housing, Joshua? Once you get to your housing, you might have your house paid for or your home paid for through the government or whatever, but you still have to have your utilities paid for. If you can't get a job because you haven't dealt with your trauma, then you're back on the streets because you just sit in this home thinking that you're okay. And everything's great when it moves into its own system, but we create our own stagnancy in where we're at. And when we create that stagnancy, there's no way to get out of that. So a lot of what I look at, and I try to look at, is how do I put that help out there to show people that in my situation, this is what I do. I have a job, and even the recovery after my heart attack, I was on a heart defibrillator and wasn't able to drive nor work for months. So I had help through the rescue mission to pay for the first 3 months. But in that time of recovery, I had to push myself because time doesn't stop because I'm in somewhere. Right. And a lot of it is not explained to everyone. They're so happy that they've got somewhere to go, and they're going with the process to where when they're put out, they're right back on the street. The rise of how much it costs to live anywhere, housing cost is amazingly high anywhere you go. I come from Colorado, and Colorado is almost the highest in housing and middle wage pay, to where jobs are like, it's hard to come by a good paying job. To get an apartment, it's almost impossible to be able to live. But that's in any state. Yeah, and
it is. It's everywhere. Across the country right now. Mind-boggling.
Let me ask you, when you talk to the people that you talk to, what are their feelings on being homeless?
I mean, shame is the primary feeling I've gotten from everyone. Society inflicts this shame on everyone that has to experience this. And there's so little compassion for the folks that are experiencing homelessness. Plus, they get traumatized by trying to deal with the system that is supposed to be helping people. It becomes demoralizing for folks to have to go through that and then here, especially, sit on a waiting list for maybe you get housing. And hopefully whatever program you're getting housing through offers services too, because otherwise you're just, like you said, you're just getting housed and then you're just sitting there and you still have all this trauma that you have to process. Like all of the things that you've gone through that while out on the street are still there. And it's not stuff that is just magically vanishes as soon as you become housed again. It's, to answer that question, I think it's mostly shame and a reluctance, a strong reluctance to continue investing in the system because the systems are broken. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this place right now.
I don't know if it's the system that's corrupted, but I noticed that when I was out on the field, certain individuals that would come out from organizations, and these are the main organizations that are all over our community, and they're diligently doing what they're supposed to be doing. You know, they come out with a pen and a pad of paper and they take your information and you know, you're sitting there and they say, well, what can we help you with? Well, okay, I need housing. Are you looking for shelter? Yeah. You know, and then they give you a packet. Within that packet, you've got housing, places that you can be housed, shelters that you can go to, food pantries, things of that nature. What we have there, Joshua, is an outdated packet of shit. Okay? And when I say that is that they come out, they give you a packet, and in that packet, it hands you a list of nonprofit organizations that have failed. So you're standing there with a piece of paper that is literally a piece of paper that's going to be fire for your heat tonight. You might not even have a cell phone. How do you expect me to call? And then you look in these eyes of caring individuals, and I am not for 1 second, and I hope not to have that sound in a way that there is not caring going on, because there's they wouldn't be in the field that they are if they didn't have a certain level of caring and compassion for who they're working with. They walk away and they say, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to come back, we'll check on you next week, make sure that you do us a favor and give these people a call. We're putting you into our file for somebody who needs help. All of these different resources that we have to offer everyone is amazing resources, but they have to get through all of their trauma and their fear of thinking that their child is going to get taken away, thinking that they're going to get incarcerated.
What steps did you take to get out of homelessness?
I had to listen to a mentor and deal with my trauma, my drug and alcohol addictions. Those were the first steps that I needed to take. And then after dealing with those, I really can't tell you other than death played a big toll on everything that I firmly believe and want to work for right now in my situation. I think that the people around me were the right people to have, and our community, when served well, and who serves our community when serving well, makes the huge difference. But you've got to trust. That is the one step that we all need to make, is finding a way to trust, and that involves our community as well, having us being able to trust.
Hi again. Thanks for listening. If you know of any unhoused individuals that would like to be interviewed, or you would like to submit an interview yourself, please reach out to us through the website, understandingtheunhoused.org. Click on the contact button, send us a quick message. We'll get back to you as soon as we can and get things moving. Also, while on the site, if you're feeling generous, please click on the donate button. There is a very low overhead for this podcast, but there are costs involved. Thanks again for listening. I hope after hearing these stories, you will have a little more compassion, a little more empathy, and a better understanding of the unhoused.